Once again, I'd like to apologize for the delayed follow-up. I had to take care of some things. Now, where did we leave off? All right. I was trying to explain what happened at the carnival, and then someone came sneaking into the gas station through the back door. I didn't want to take any chances, so I grabbed my trusty baseball bat and slipped out from behind the counter. I could hear the guy breathing, sneaking around the snack racks on the chip aisle. A lot can be said about having the home field advantage, because even though he was smooth and quiet and heavily armed, I managed to slip up right behind him without ever giving myself away. He was wearing a camo jacket and had an ammo belt wrapped around his waist, and he was doing a crouch walk like some kind of soldier. Whoever he was, he'd come here looking for a fight. I got into striking position and raised my bat over my head, knowing I'd probably only get one shot at incapacitating him. But somehow, in the time it took for my bat to come down as fast as I could swing it, the man spun around and caught it in the palm of his gargantuan hand. I froze. That was so incredibly cool that I couldn't even come up with the correct reaction. Before I could find the words to say, the man stood up straight and yanked my weapon away from me. He towered over me, and the look on his face made it clear that he was royally pissed off, and rightfully so. I'd nearly given him another concussion, and all because I assumed he was there to kill me. "Oh," I said as the realization dawned on me. "It's you." "Jack!" screamed Benjamin as he tossed my baseball bat behind him. "What the ever-loving hell is wrong with you?" "Sorry. You had a mosquito. I was trying to get it before it—" He grabbed me by the neck and proceeded to drag me into the bathroom. For those of you new to the gas station, I suppose I should explain. Benjamin is a guy who showed up out of the blue a few months back. He's a big, muscular weirdo with a Duck Dynasty beard and a strange fascination with guns and knives. I have absolutely no idea who pays him, or where he came from, or what his deal is, but he's proven himself to be highly capable, if not overly trigger-happy, in case of supernatural pests. We're not exactly friends, but there is a certain level of professional courtesy between the two of us. Even though he almost intentionally blew me up one time, but that's a whole nother story. Benjamin filled the sink with cold water, grabbed me by the back of my neck with his gigantic monster-killing hands, and forced my face subaqueous. That was on my word of the day calendar a while back, and this is my first time to be able to use it in a sentence. Yay. I assumed he'd finally gone off the deep end, and this was his way of conserving ammo while putting me down. But like so many other near-death experiences, this one ended just a few seconds after I determined I was certain to die. He yanked me back out of the water, like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Then he tossed me to the ground. I hacked and spat and coughed until my throat was cleared enough for me to breathe normally, then asked why. "I needed to get your blood flowing again. Your brain is mush and I can't work with you if you ain't got any sense left." He crouched down next to me on the ground and smacked me across the face. Hard. Definitely harder than he needed to, I think. But who am I to question his methods? He's the expert. Ow. "How long have you been moping around this place all by yourself?" I tried to think, but couldn't exactly nail down the correct answer with any accuracy. More than a few weeks, less than 3 months. We'd run out of nearly every supply, and if the stack of overdue notices beneath the counter were to be believed, the phone and electric companies would be shutting off our utilities any day now. I'd been rotating through the same box of clothing for longer than I'd care to admit, washing them in the bathroom and hanging them out back to dry. At least until that guy in the bear costume stole my favorite pair of pants. Since then, I started leaving wet clothes on a drying rack in the supply closet. I looked Benjamin in the eyes and answered, "A while." He grabbed me by the collar before standing up and pulling me to my feet. "All right, kid. Do you still have any coffee in this dump?" "As a matter of fact, we do." "Good. Make sure you use bottled water and start us up a fresh pot. I'm going to go lock the doors and you can tell me what the hell happened. Sound good?" In typical Benjamin fashion, he didn't wait for me to answer. He pulled out one of those fancy handguns that probably weighed as much as a small child, then went to secure the perimeter. I made the pot of coffee extra strong. Something told me we were going to need it. In 10 minutes, we were back in the booth by the door. Benjamin's idea of locking up involved chains and actual locks, and pushing the new frozen drink machine flush against the doors, so nobody could see in or out. I sipped my coffee, and Benjamin gulped his down in 3 loud swallows. All right, you mentally unstable son of a bitch. Let's get on with it. What's going on this time? I got alarm bells going off left and right. All these reports keep tying back to your shithole of a town. I arrived yesterday and you know what I see? Nothing out of the ordinary. Place is perfect. Full of happy Stepford wives and smiling children and folks mowing their lawns. What am I missing? I tried taking a bigger sip of coffee just to see how hard that must have been for him to down it like that. But I ended up burning the roof of my mouth and instantly dropped it all back into the cup with an awkward blah. Benjamin narrowed his eyes at me. If you'd seen this town before everything started, you'd already know what's wrong. People here don't mow, they don't smile, and they sure as hell can't be described as happy or perfect unless you're aiming for ironic. Okay, he said. So what are we dealing with? Mind control, something in the water? I wish it were that simple. Then what is it? He was growing more impatient by the second. It's an invasion. Those people you saw in town, they're not real. Benjamin laughed. It ended as abruptly as it started once he realized I was being serious, and the look of bemusement slid right off his face. Elaborate on not real for me, please. Crap got weirder than usual, and now all the people in town have been replaced by something else. I could hear the sound of the seat beneath him creaking loudly as Benjamin leaned forward to ask, Well, then what happened to all the originals? I don't know, I answered. I assume they're all dead, but that might just be my irrational optimism. Benjamin looked around the store. Where are your friends? Gone. Gone? Yeah. He put his gigantic hand through his beard as he thought for a second, then said, All right, I'm going to need you to dig real deep. I need you to pull yourself together for a little bit longer. And I need you to tell me exactly what happened here. Can you do that? I can try. Good. Benjamin made himself another cup of coffee. Then I explained how it all went down. First, I filled him in on the doctor trying to buy the gas station, and then Farmer Jr., and then the rest of the carnival. O'Brien let us know she was going to need to go to work. We just stumbled into an active crime scene and the viciously deconstructed body of an old frenemy nailed to a wall. She wanted to make sure we were going to be okay, but we had no good way to get out of there without her. I was the only sober one in the group. Rosa finished Jerry's flask to calm her nerves, and I still only had one leg and therefore couldn't operate a motor vehicle. O'Brien found an empty circus tent and told us to stay put there until her backup arrived to take over. We stood around in a covered 10 by 20 pop-up, trying hard to find something to say or do to pass the time. Jerry took out a pack of smokes and offered them to us. We both declined and watched as he lit one up. Eventually, Rosa broke her silence. What? What do you think happened to him? You think he had some kind of accident while he was in there? Jerry answered, Oh yeah, probably. That guy was a huge klutz, always playing with nail guns and stuff. I genuinely couldn't tell if he was being a sarcastic dick, or if he was trying to tell a bad lie to help Rosa believe what she needed to, not to freak out even worse. Either way, I ruined it as soon as I spoke. FJ was missing his jawbone. No, somebody put him there. They wanted him to be found like that. Rosa began silently crying. Now I felt like the asshole, but she probably needed to know the truth. Our lives are weird and dangerous, and there's no room for innocent people in this town. I think Jerry actually said those exact words during Vanessa's funeral. Somebody coughed. We all looked at one another, and Jerry asked, Who was that? The sound had definitely come from inside the tent. I was really starting to regret that the only one in our group with any weapon and combat experience had left us alone in here, like sitting ducks. Knowing full well that Spencer Middleton was still out there somewhere, hunting me. Why did I ever agree to come out here and do this in the first place? Jerry walked towards the back of the tent. Times like this are when I really wonder how this guy managed to stay alive for so long. "Jerry!" I called. He looked back at me and answered, "Don't worry. I'm just going to go investigate that mysterious noise coming from behind the strange curtain in the back of this dark tent next to the horror house where we found the dead body. I'll be right back." "Be careful," Rosa managed. Jerry reached the back of the tent and pulled away the thin curtain hanging there. In a small space on the other side, someone had tucked away a box covered in red fabric. It stood maybe 3 feet high and 3 feet wide. Jerry looked back our way. I started towards him with Rosa right behind me. "Maybe we shouldn't be messing around in here," I offered. Before Jerry had a chance to respond, we heard a strange whimpering noise emanating from beneath the blanket. We all froze and stared at the box. That noise sounded almost human. "Yo!" Jerry said. "Is somebody in there?" We waited, but there was no response. Before I could suggest we turn around and pretend we didn't hear anything, Jerry grabbed the fabric by the corner and announced, "Well, I hope you're wearing pants." I yelled out, "Jerry, wait!" But it was too late. He yanked the fabric off the top in one quick, smooth motion, uncovering what was underneath. And Rosa gasped. It was a cage, something akin to a dog kennel. Sitting inside, tucked away in the corner, was a small child, wearing nothing but a pair of strange shorts. The bottom of the cage was littered with blood and hay, with a half-empty bowl of water on one side. Jerry took a step back and muttered, "Holy shit." The child calmly looked at each of us, one at a time, focusing for a few seconds before switching to the next. There was something a little off about the child, and I'm not just saying that because his eyes were freakishly huge and solid black, or because his skin was entirely purple. No, there was something harder to explain that was simply wrong about him. Assuming it was a him, given the lack of hair and the strange face, it really was nothing more than an educated guess. Eventually, Rosa broke free from the shock and rushed up to the cage, trying to find a way to open it, and saying to the child, "Oh my God, are you okay? You must be freezing. What's your name? Are you okay? How did you get in here? Guys, help me open this thing. Where are your parents? Oh my God, what are you doing in there? Are you all right?" She grabbed the bars of the cage and started shaking at them forcefully, but they were solid steel, and her tiny hands weren't going to do much to get through. Jerry calmly walked around her and crouched next to the cage, where the door was latched and secured with 2 separate heavy-duty locks. The kid didn't seem to mind either of them anymore. While they worked on his cage, he stared straight at me. "Hi," I said. "Hello. Wait, did he just answer me?" No, not possible. His mouth didn't move, and that noise certainly didn't come from inside the cage. Where did that voice come from, anyway? Sometimes I forget that my brain has a tendency to misfire. Jerry stood up. "Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm getting through these locks." Rosa pulled off her blue jean jacket and squeezed it through the bars, screaming, "Who would leave a child out here like this?" She tried to throw her jacket onto the kid, but it landed near his feet and he simply looked at it, then back at me. "Okay, Jack," Jerry started. "What do we do?" "Why are you asking me?" "Well, you've got seniority." "I'm younger than you." "No, I mean gas station seniority. You outrank us, so you're the boss. Duh. What do we do?" "Yeah, Jack. What do we do?" I looked down at the child. Did he just... For a split second, I swear I saw him crack a smile. "All right, you stay here with the purple kid. Make sure he's safe. I'm going to go find O'Brien." Great. My moment to come up with a plan, and the best I can do is, let's split up, gang. But seriously, what other options were there? "Be careful," Jerry warned as he put an arm around the shivering Rosa. I'm not trying to say that this isn't terribly interesting, interrupted Benjamin sarcastically, but you've been talking for half an hour, and I still don't see what this has to do with any invasion. Have you forgotten what story you were telling? Oh, I'm sorry. Am I boring you? I just want you to get on with it. I'm trying, but this is important. Telling me about how Rosa was shivering? These details are important? Yes, Benjamin. All of this is important. Okay, fine. Keep going. I'm all ears. Finish your damn story. I refilled our coffees, then got back to it, right where I left off. I didn't make it far before regretting leaving the relative safety of the pop-up tent. The carnival was still in full swing, with visitors and carnies and performers walking about in a huge crowd, with plenty of spaces for Spencer or any other psychopath to be hiding in plain sight. This was a major event, and it would take a lot more than a simple murder to harsh this town's mellow. Sure, most of them didn't even know what had happened. Besides, a makeshift closed for repairs sign on the front of the haunted Hell House attraction, the carnival was pretty much business as usual. I looked around to try and find O'Brien or any other members of the law enforcement community, but while I was scanning the crowds, somebody walked by and kicked one of my crutches out from under me, and I plummeted straight to the ground. I didn't get a look at them, but I heard their group laughing like that was the funniest thing they'd ever seen, and I caught a quick glimpse of two of them high-fiving as they walked away. I really hate people sometimes. As I struggled to right myself, I heard a deep southern voice ask, "You need some help there, son?" I looked up to see Dr. Howard walking towards me. With a big fluff of pink cotton candy in one hand, he extended his free arm to help me up. I positioned my crutches and said, "It's okay, I got this." I'd gotten pretty good at picking myself up off the ground. After I had managed to get back to my feet, or rather, foot, the doctor took a bite of cotton candy, then said, "Mr. Townsend, what a strange coincidence running into you like this. What happened to all your friends?" I patted the dirt off my pants and answered, "Wouldn't you like to know?" He gave me a look, one that I'll never forget, almost like he felt sorry for me, and it really, really pissed me off. "Look, Jack, can I call you Jack?" "I guess. I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. I didn't mean that as a... It's fine. I get it. I'm trying to say that first impressions are precious, aren't they? And I may have messed up. I'd like to apologize for my rude behavior." "Don't mention it." I started to move past him, but he took a step into my path. He wasn't ready to end our conversation. "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order." "What?" "Well, I heard about what happened to the previous owners. For that, you certainly have my condolences. But when life closes one door, you know the expression. I think you've been given a terrific, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This kind of responsibility, though, it's not to be taken lightly. And I want to make sure that you're not being given the wrong kind of advice. I'm a businessman, after all, and I've seen plenty of people in your position lose everything just because they didn't know who to trust." I rolled my eyes hard enough that there was no way he couldn't see it, and then said, "Thanks." As I tried to take a step around him, he blocked my path once more. "I mean, what did your friends say when you told them?" I locked eyes with the doctor. He read my silence and knew why I wasn't answering. He let out a good, deep chuckle and said, "Oh, you haven't told them, have you?" I was waiting for the right time. Why was I even answering this guy? I didn't owe him anything. "You haven't told your friends that the owners left you the gas station in their will?" "No." "How interesting." He picked a tiny tuft of cotton candy off the stick and tucked it into his mouth, then licked his fingers one at a time before repeating himself. "How interesting." "Look, it's just not important." "If it's not important, then why didn't you tell them?" "I don't know." "What is it about you gas station employees and keeping secrets? You, Jerry, that other guy?" "Hey, I know all about Jerry's past." The doctor laughed. "No, you don't. Yes, I do. I know he's secretly rich and ran away to join a cult and his parents are looking for him. Wow. If that's what you think his secret is, then I've got news for you. You don't know your friend nearly as well as you think you do. Well, this has been lovely, I said, trying once again to move around the doctor. But I've got to get going. I found an abandoned child, and now I need to get the authorities. That wiped the smug look right off the doctor's face. An abandoned child? Where? Here? I started maneuvering through the crowd, but the doctor kept along right next to me. Yeah, so what do you care? Jack, I'm not a monster. If there's a child that needs help, I'm going to do what I can. I know the owner of this venue, and child endangerment will not stand. He put his fingers to his mouth and let out an incredibly loud, shrill whistle, then yelled at someone I couldn't see. Hey, Felix, over here! A few seconds later, a pasty security guard with a porn star mustache and a name badge that read F. Gabriel cut through the crowd to reach us. Yes, Mr. Howard? Felix, this young man says he found a child in need of help. I need this situation to be rectified yesterday. Do you understand? I'm holding you personally responsible for this. Yes, Mr. Howard. Hold up, Benjamin said, interrupting my story yet again. What? I gotta go take a piss and then check a perimeter. Something tells me this story is going to be much longer than I had anticipated. You gonna be okay, not go crazy until I get back? I can try. Good. And that pretty much brings us up to where we are now. Benjamin is walking around the building. I have no idea what he thinks he's looking for, but I figured I'd make the most of my time by writing this update until he gets back. Come to think of it, he's been out there for a while. I wonder what's taking him so long. Well, when he does get back, I'm going to have to tell him the rest of the story. I'm not really looking forward to it. I know he has an open mind and everything, but, well, things are about to get really weird. And I don't blame anyone if they don't believe me, or if they hate me for what happens next. I just want to let you all know, right now, that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what happens next. Hey guys, I suppose I should apologize again for leaving you all hanging like that. Wow, I sure do start off a lot of these updates with apologies, don't I? Sorry about that. I assure you I am not dead, not yet anyway, but that might be about to change soon. From what I've been able to gather, the invasion is spreading like the plague, and all I can do to slow it down is sit here all by myself and hold my ground until that's no longer possible. Alone. Without any help. Jeez, I always planned on dying alone, but I never realized it was going to be so utterly lonely. Okay, the severed head in the box took umbrage with that last sentence. I didn't realize he was reading along with my thoughts, so please allow me to clarify. I'm not literally alone. If I were, this whole thing might actually be a little easier. There's the box head, plus my trusty baseball bat. I drew a face on him with a Sharpie and named him Ricardo. And of course, old killaholic Benjamin just showed up out of the blue. And you know, I've got you guys. But the truth is, I can't know how many of you out there are real either. The severed head can't sniff out the imposters unless they're in the gas station. I have to accept that there is a very real chance none of you are real either. Maybe the invasion has already succeeded. Maybe I'm the last real person left. But for the sake of my sanity, let's just assume this isn't the case. I guess the last time I checked in, Benjamin had just arrived at the gas station and found me in a somewhat embarrassing state. He barricaded our doors, just like the good old days, and then I started telling him all about everything that has happened in the last few months. I told him about Valentine's Day and Farmer Brown's son's murder at the carnival. I was about to get to the really weird stuff, but then he left to check the perimeter. Benjamin came back into the gas station a while later, and the head in the box verified that it was the same Benjamin that had walked out moments earlier. He had fresh claw marks all over his boots. Nothing too serious. Apparently, he ran into Rocco by the grease trap, Fun fact, Rocco is still alive. I swear that raccoon will outlive all of us. Benjamin resecured the back door and took his regular seat in the booth across from me, and I got back to telling my story. I left my friends with the mysterious purple-skinned child in the cage and went to go find someone who could help. Instead, all I found was Dr. Bad Accent Howard and a rent-a-cop named Felix. Felix assured me that he'd taken care of the mysterious caged child and insisted that it was nothing for us to worry about. Before I could press him any further, he called over his buddy, an angry-looking state trooper who was in town helping out with the carnival detail, to ask a few questions and take my official statement. I tried explaining how we'd found the child trapped in a cage in the unattended tent, but for some reason the trooper kept blowing off those perfectly valid concerns. He seemed way more interested in asking about me and my relationship with FJ. How long had we known each other? Were we friends? Enemies? Was there bad blood? Did I have a grudge against him? Was I faking my injury? Did I own any weapons? I kept pointing out that FJ wasn't getting any deader, and we should probably return to the random kid who definitely needed some hot cocoa and a pair of pants. But before I knew it, I was being escorted to the back of a police car. Once we got there, he handcuffed me, yoinked my crutches and phone, and slammed the door. I spent the next hour trapped back there, cold and alone, wondering what I did or said that landed me in this situation, and also wondering what happened to the trooper. Had he forgotten about me? Or was he doing this to make some kind of point? I tried getting comfortable, but it was exactly as difficult as you'd expect with no heat and wrists bound behind my back. It seems you found yourself in another tight spot. I looked around for a second, trying to discover who had just said that. Then a face turned back from the passenger seat and stared at me with sad eyes. "Oh," I said. "Hi, Tom. I didn't realize you were here." "I'm not," he assured me, "but I still wanted to check on you." "Well, I appreciate the company, and it's nice that you chose to stop by, but that doesn't really help me right now. You got any plans for how you're going to get out of this mess?" I figured I'd just wait until someone rescued me. That's what I usually do, and it's been working out okay so far. Tom sighed and turned back in his seat. "That isn't going to work much longer, Jack. You've been coasting by on luck, but things are about to change for the worse. There's a storm brewing." "Yeah," I said as I tried to wriggle into a position where I could actually see my old friend. I've actually noticed quite an uptick recently in dead people talking to me. Tom didn't respond. I scooted forward to try and catch a glimpse of him through the cage divider separating me from the front seats, but once I got into position, I could see that there was nobody there. I was alone again. Or, more likely, I was alone still. That's how I stayed for another hour or two, until the door opened with a blast of cool night air. I heard a welcome voice on the other side ask, "You all right, tripod?" I looked out to see O'Brien and the angry trooper. "I'm fine." "Uncuff him," she commanded. When the trooper didn't move fast enough, she yelled, "Now!" That got him into gear. He removed the cuffs and handed me my cell phone and crutches, helped me out, and did pretty much everything but dust me off. "Now apologize," ordered O'Brien. I turned to face the trooper, who was now looking at the ground sheepishly. Then I said, "I'm sorry." He looked up and cocked his head slightly. "Not you, dummy. Him." "Oh." The trooper cleared his throat and forced his way through a half-hearted apology, and then that was the end of it. He got into the car and drove off, while she walked with me back to the haunted hell house, through an empty carnival. All the booths were closed up, and all the people had long gone. Apparently, I had been sitting in the back of that cop car for longer than I had originally estimated. "I thought I told you to stay put." She was angry, but there was a real note of concern in her voice. "I know, but there was well, I'm not sure what you'd call it. A kid or something, in a cage." "Yeah, I heard, but you still shouldn't have gone off on your own like that. What if Spencer had been following us? What if he'd gotten you before I did?" Well, I guess I'd probably be dead. Or worse. You need to start taking this seriously. You know what's out there. You know better than anyone. And you won't even carry a weapon. I never should have let you come out tonight. I stopped in my tracks. Whoa, let me come out tonight? Amy, you're not my mom or my boss. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate all the times you've saved my skin, but I don't need your permission to leave. She interrupted. I didn't mean it like that. But it was a little too late for her to backtrack now. I knew exactly what she meant. I'm not your responsibility. Someone's got to keep you safe. I can keep myself safe. I just pulled you out of the back of a state trooper's car. Somebody's out there hunting monsters and opening gates to hell. You've been kidnapped more times in the last month than I can believe. Now bodies are piling up again, and you won't even carry a gun. Well, I'm glad we could have that nice, neat little recap there. Whether you believe it or not, I care about your stupid ass, and I'd like for you to stick around for as long as possible. I want you to be more careful. Is that an order or a request? Call it both. As your friend, I'm asking you to please watch out. As a deputy, I'm telling you I'll kick your ass if you don't start acting smarter. Before I could say anything back, a voice from near the Hell House called out, "O'Brien!" We both looked up to see a man dressed in the deputy uniform, holding a pretzel as he walked up to us, his powerful gut seriously testing the limits of his shirt button's capabilities. Soon he was close enough to smell. His name tag said, Love. "Clyde wants to talk to you," he said to her. O'Brien tried to hide a quick scowl, but failed. "All right, I'm on my way." She looked back at me. "Can we finish this conversation later?" I thought we already had. She scowled again. What was I supposed to say? She turned to the deputy and said, "Love, do me a favor and walk Crutches back to my car." Then to me, "I told Pockets and Stoner to wait in the cruiser while I went to find you. Stay with them where it's safe until I get back, okay?" So weird that she would still think that any place in this town was safe. Deputy Loved walked with me towards the parking lot for all of about 10 seconds before giving up and saying, "You got this, right?" "What?" "I mean, you're a big boy. You know where the parking lot is. No reason you need a chaperone, is there?" "Well, besides all those crazy reasons." "No, I'm fine. Go enjoy your pretzel." Love had already stuffed the entire thing into his mouth hole before I could finish the sentence. Then he turned and toddled off. By the time I got back to the huge empty field that served as the carnival's parking arena, it was empty save for a few police cars and a single ambulance. I made my way across the field towards O'Brien's cruiser, navigating the potholes and litter and empty beer cans strewn about the area. When I was a few yards away, I noticed that Jerry and Rosa were sitting on the hood of the cruiser, staring into the woods with their backs to me. They'd found, or more likely stolen, a blanket from somewhere and were wrapped up in it. Once I got close enough to hear them, I picked up a part of a conversation I really wish I hadn't. Rosa seemed annoyed and somewhat drunk. "I don't get it, you know? I don't know what I did to make him not like me so much." "Hey, I know the world doesn't revolve around Jack." I told myself to check my ego before assuming that she was talking about me. I mean, that could describe anyone, right? Jerry answered her in a voice that was much softer than I was used to. "Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a wall there. Most of the people he lets get close to him either die or try to kill him, or usually both." Okay, that settled it. They were definitely talking about me. I considered clearing my throat to announce my presence, but for some reason I didn't. Instead, I just stood there, listening, like a creep. Jerry took a swig from a wine bottle and continued, "If it helps any, I don't think he likes me very much either." Wow. Suddenly, I felt pretty damn small. In the days and weeks and months since that night, I've wished countless times for one chance to go back to that moment, so I could kick my own ass for not saying something, for not telling them that, hey, I really do like you guys. Instead, I ignored it. I took Jerry's sentence and buried it deep in my mind, where I thought it would be safe and do no harm. Little did I realize that it wasn't going to just sit there. It would eventually start to leak, poisoning my other thoughts, long after Jerry was gone. I assumed I'd get a chance to bring it up again later, when I was ready, when I wasn't standing in a field in the middle of the night, cold and hungry and annoyed. But life doesn't guarantee us any extra chances, does it? Maybe we should seize the ones we get. I took a breath to say, "Hey guys," but my timing was just a little off. Before I could get the words out, Jerry and Rosa leaned in and started kissing each other. "Look, I don't need to hear this part," Benjamin interrupted. He was really starting to annoy me with all these interruptions. Imagine how I feel, having to talk about it. I swear, seeing them kiss felt completely wrong and unnatural, like seeing your parents kissing. I'd love to forget all about it, but you were the one who asked. "Are you seriously going to sit there and tell me with a straight face that I need to hear about your friend's romantic drama in order to understand why this town is ground central for an invasion?" Yes, I am. That is exactly what I'm saying. "Okay then," he said flatly. "Please carry on. I can't wait to see where this is going." It was unexpected, although I don't know why it should have been. Jerry has a long history of kissing anybody who lets him. And Rosa, well, I don't know. The whole thing kind of messed me up a little, but one thing was for sure. I couldn't just stand there watching them like some kind of weirdo pervert. I had to say something. But then I realized that they weren't in front of me anymore. In fact, the car had completely vanished, replaced by a tangle of old trees and knee-high weeds. What in the wide world of sports? I turned and looked around, taking it all in, my mind falling through the void, thrashing around and trying to find some kind of handhold. Where am I? And utterly failing. Until my eyes caught something familiar, way off in the distance, on the other side of the field. It was O'Brien's cruiser. From here I could barely make out two figures sitting on the hood, staring at the trees on the other side. Had they just teleported? I looked at the ground to see a tiny garden snake slithering over my foot and into the bushy weeds. Then it finally clicked. No, they hadn't teleported. I was somehow on the opposite side of the parking area, with no idea how I'd gotten there. Lost time is one of my rarer symptoms, and I hadn't experienced it in a while, not since the old digging episodes. I was hoping that I might have gotten lucky, that maybe I'd gotten over that particular ailment, but I guess not. My subconscious self must have decided that it was a good idea to walk away from everything, from the carnival and my friends, and head off into the woods. Fortunately, I snapped out of it before it was too late. It was going to be an impressive struggle to walk all the way back, across that enormous ditch, past the carnival dumpsters, then across the field to my friends, especially considering how I almost got the crutches stuck in mud about 10 times before I made it out of those snake-infested weeds. How had I even gotten this far without falling? I reached the ditch and realized there was no way to safely jump it. I used the word ditch, but it may as well have been considered a man-made creek. It was about 6 feet across at the thinnest section, steep on the edges, and filled with that shiny combination of stagnant rainwater and fuel runoff. My sock and shoe were relatively dry, and once again I had to wonder how I'd crossed it in the first place. Maybe subconscious Jack was better at jumping, but lucid Jack wasn't about to take any chances. I bit the bullet and sloshed right through the muck. I emerged on the other side next to the dumpsters. The climb up the steep dirt wall would have been exhausting even with fully functioning legs, and by the time I made it out, I was wet and tired, and not sure it was even worth it to keep going. I could simply wait right here and call the others to come pick me up, but then I'd have to put up with that horrendous smell of carnival garbage wafting over from the dumpsters. I rested against one of them for a second, giving myself a chance to catch my breath. Just for a second, I told myself. Then I have to soldier on. But as I stood there recharging my batteries, I noticed the dumpster in front of me began to light up, and I watched my own shadow expand away from my feet and project itself upon the empty field. The world had gotten brighter, like someone had turned on a lamp as strong as daylight right behind me. Oh crap. In addition to the light, there was a sound, like someone or something breathing. Whatever it was loud and close. I carefully, very carefully, began to turn around. Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, please don't be a monster, please don't be a monster. I caught the source of the light for only a split second as it disappeared around the edge of the dumpster. It was large, glowing, green, and right at eye level, and it looked somewhat like a face, and now it was gone. I must have scared it. "Hello?" I called. "Is someone there?" There was no response. As you've probably already surmised, I don't have the most reliable track record when it comes to the perception of objective reality. I'm certainly in no position to ever assume that anything I'm seeing isn't completely real, but at the same time, I recognize that my hallucinations can be awfully convincing. I took one step towards the edge of the dumpster, where the face had gone, which was exactly enough time for me to realize I was being an idiot. This is precisely what O'Brien meant when she told me to start acting safer. Why was I doing this? Why did I even agree to come out here in the first place? My comfort zone was at the gas station, sitting behind the counter with a book, not investigating glowy face monsters behind the murder carnival dumpsters. Ever since I started hanging out with my coworkers, things have changed. I've changed, and I have to wonder if it's for the better or worse. I came to my senses, then turned back around and started towards the car, hoping the others had finished their conversation so we could just sit in uncomfortable silence until O'Brien got back. But when I looked down at the ground to navigate my way through the littered field, I noticed that my crutches were coated in something other than just mud. Something red, wet and sticky. I took out my phone, flicked on the flashlight, and pointed it at my shoe to confirm that there was a fair amount of fresh blood on it as well. Then I turned and looked at where I had just come from. A small distinctive pattern of bloody crutch and footprints led from the dumpster to where I stood. It would seem as if I had accidentally wandered through another puddle of blood. Okay, Jack, remember what O'Brien said. This is not your problem. You gotta get out of here while you still can. I stood there, frozen by indecision. Hello? My brain seemed to say. What are we waiting for? The car's that way. The opposite direction from the puddle of dumpster blood. Yeah, you're right, I said to my brain. Of course I'm right, my brain said back. Now get to going before something happens to ruin it. But right then, I heard a sound that changed everything. It was coming from inside the dumpster. A loud, high-pitched whimpering, like a wounded animal. It whined in pain, then went quiet. Hello? My words were met with more silence. Okay, now get out of there. I took a small step towards the dumpster. Why am I not getting out of here? I took another step. Why am I so stupid? Then another. Before I realized it, I was walking back to the sound of the whimper. And then I was there, next to where the noise had come from. I put a hand on the sliding door of the dumpster, took a breath, and pulled it open with a metallic scratch. The creature inside was tucked away into a corner, balled up with its wings folded back over its slimy green and brown body. Its rodent-like furry head tucked into its side, with one giant, brown, watery eye staring at me. Its skin glowed bright like foxfire, everywhere, except for the sections coated in dried blood. The thing was the size of a black bear, but the way it cowered and cried gave it such a pathetic appearance that I couldn't imagine it being any kind of threat. I slammed the door closed again and took a step back. Better safe than sorry. Okay, now was the time to get the hell out of there. But before I could run away and make my daring escape, the top of the dumpster swung open, and the glowing creature poked out its head and front 2 feet, This thing seemed all kinds of wrong. A Cronenberg-style amalgamation of mammal, insect, and something else. With large, scaly green wings, webbed paws tipped with long black talons, and dark fur all over its body illuminated by the green glowing skin beneath. The head looked like that of an oversized raccoon, and there was pain in its eyes. "Oh, hey there," I said as I casually backed away. "I was trying to find my car. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Why don't I—" Backing up with crutches is one of those rare life skills that only a few people possess, and despite all my practice, I will never be one of them. One of the crutches found a hole, and in no time I was back on my ass again. The creature watched me fall, then scurried down the side of the dumpster with the speed of a bug in your bedroom, right after you swing and miss, leaving bloodied paw prints against the sides as it escaped its nest and darted towards me. Before I could get my crutches back into position, the glowing raccoon dragon thing was at my side. It opened its mouth wide enough to fit a baby inside, exposing rows of giant sharp teeth and a horrid stench of week-old carnival garbage. I closed my eyes and prepared for the end. What I did not prepare for was a hot tongue smacking me right in the face. What the F? It spun in a circle, then smacked me in the face with its tongue again, licking me hard, slicking back my hair and depositing gross, slimy monster saliva all over my ear and nose. I wiped the slime from my eye as the thing panted loudly. Well, that was, thanks, I guess. It plopped onto the ground next to me, turned its head back towards its hind area, and whimpered loud enough to nearly burst my eardrums. I followed its eyes to the source of all the blood. Clamped down around its ankle was a bear trap, and from the look of it, that thing had been there for a while. The metal was buried deep into the leg meat, and most of it had already scabbed over so thoroughly I wouldn't be able to remove it without a lot of help, and maybe a couple power tools. About a foot higher, there was a long wooden arrow protruding from the monster's furry green hip, where a fresh wound leaked dark blood like a faucet. Someone was hunting this poor creature, and I had a pretty good idea who. It looked at me and continued to whimper. Look, I'm not a doctor, okay? It whimpered even louder. All right, fine. It went quiet. I'll see what I can do. I scooted myself back in the dirt, just far enough that I could reach the arrow. Then I reached out and grabbed it. The creature sprung back to life with a loud squeal, then launched itself away from me towards the forest, where I had just come from, galloping on 3 legs faster than any creature I'd ever seen, leaping right over the ditch and vanishing into the thick cover of the trees. I waited for my eyes to readjust to the sudden darkness. Once they had, I tossed the bloody arrow to the side, grabbed my crutches, and forced myself back to my foot with one thought in my head. O'Brien cannot know about this.